All right, let's go, because you know what I came in to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
People are talking about the £7 is going to do Errol all his world of good. At the beginning, he'll feel the benefits of making 154. But at this stage here, to alleviate any real stress from weight making for Errol Spence, he'll have to move up to 160. And then he'll be rid of the stress of weight making, only to run into guys who are a lot bigger, punch a lot harder, which will nullify a lot of what his game was based on at 147. And then what? I said that on the 4th of August, and Mayweather on the 7th of August said Spence needs to move up to 160. Not 154, to 160 or 168. And I call it the delusion of 18 weight classes. It's also the delusion of weighing in the day before. Yeah, I'm going to shrink down to welterweight when I'm really a middleweight. Yes, of course, when you rehydrate and you come in all big against the second tier of welterweights, it's going to work. But when you go up to the elite welterweights, that and other factors are going to come back to haunt you.
Hey! Two-time! Come on, it's only two of us!
What they got to say now?
I just want to tell you.
A shameless plug by Claressa to Showtime. I see Al Heyman still hasn't took her up on that call out to give her a deal.
Al Heyman, call me.
I planned to do this video a couple of times. I've done a couple of drafts of it. But it wasn't until somebody pointed out that Claressa trying to steal Bud's moment. Now, there might not be no evil intent in what she's doing, but she was hanging her coat on the accomplishment that she was the only boxer, male or female, to be a 2-weight world champion in the 4-belt era. Now, we know after Bud's scintillating performance against Spence, he's accomplished that, and he also has the added trinket of being the WBO lightweight champion. So she wanted to let everyone know that she's a 4-belt 2-weight champion, but she couldn't help herself from, as they're saying there, trying to steal Bud's moment. So I'm just theorizing, and that wasn't enough. Bud not only equaled her accomplishment, but surpassed it. And we know Claressa's never been happy that she doesn't get the same recognition as the men or respect. And she thought to herself, well, she needs to go nuclear. She's going nuclear. How is she going to get them to recognize her on an equal with the men? Call out a man boxer, a former WBA welterweight champion, Keith Thurman. Now, Keith said he'd accept, a little tongue-in-cheek. He said, we can let you try to showcase your skills. Keith said he'd use his jab only. He'd wear bigger gloves, let her wear smaller gloves. He would let her wear headgear too. He said he doesn't really want to punch a girl in the face. Shields responded by posting sparring footage of her against other males. Yeah, okay, but who are them dudes? They're not Keith Thurman. She bragged that she's been sparring men for 17 years, and she says none of them take it easy on her. It's the ultimate disrespect for a woman boxer to call out a man. It means that she doesn't see you as a threat as maybe she would other male boxers. And you know, some people say Keith is a bit corny, ponytail and stuff like that. And although I would back him to smack Claressa all around the place badly, especially, you know, if she got her wish and Keith could go all out, because she said that the men she spars doesn't take it easy. I believe Claressa thinks she can bully Keith mentally and verbally. That's why she singled out Keith. If James Toney was a welterweight boxing today, would Claressa call out James?
Because I had a lot of guys from Detroit, and James had a lot of guys from wherever he was, Lansing or whatever. Right. Now, first of all, James Toney never was from Detroit. He never came to Detroit and trained with us because we would run his ass away. You know, he was never from Detroit at all. That night, and back in the back of the by the dressing room, James Toney pulled a M16 out on me. Wow. An M16 rifle with a rocket launcher.
Wow.
I'm like, what the hell?
Now, I don't see her calling out them street dudes that happen to box like Tony and the others out there. I don't see that. Yeah, it's disrespectful what she done to Keith. It is disrespectful. And I think she did it in response to Terrence's record-breaking feats. I don't think she gets it. That the gene pool in women's boxing is not as tough or as deep as the men's. And then added to that, Terrence knocks everyone out. What is it, 11 knockouts on the bounce? When's the last time Claressa scored a knockdown? You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't get that she's never going to get the same accolades as a Terence Crawford. She'll never even be respected for her accomplishments as much as Errol Spence, the loser. And he's never been undisputed or fought in another weight class and won belts. I try not to be too critical of Claressa, but even her lack of knockouts, she'll try and explain, oh, I'm fighting killers and, you know, they've had full training camps, unlike Savannah Marshall's opponents, even though there's a couple of people that Savannah's knocked out that Claressa went the distance with. And it is styles make fights, because Claressa beat Savannah, but it was a close fight. I acknowledge that in Savannah's last two against Claressa and French On, she hasn't looked nowhere near the puncher that she has in previous fights. And that is a result of the disparity between the top girls and the also-rans. It's a lot wider than men's boxing. When her and her family had that confrontation with Mr. Bashir at the weigh-in, a lot of people on social media were saying, well, he deserved it. A man should never be talking to a woman like that. Although it was a verbal back and forth between both parties. So he shouldn't talk to a woman like that, but she could call out a male boxer. And if he does accept the challenge and they were to fight and he beats her up bad, everybody's going to be like, oh, he's a misogynist. They'd be calling for the same treatment that Mr. Bashir got, wouldn't they? He would get such a negative reaction and everybody would almost forget who called out who first. It's a silly call out. Even Dimitri Salita had to step in and said, no, that fight's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It looked like one of her fans who were calling her, yo, queen, yo, whoa, you don't even knocking out the women. How you going to fight Keith Thurman? She said she didn't say she could knock him out. She can outpoint him. You see, Keith has fought some good welterweights and obviously trains for 12 rounds. But in that gene pool of welterweights on the PBC, he can't be thinking like that. He's got to be thinking any opportunity he gets to knock someone out, he's got to take it. She thinks she can take the same approach in how she boxes women into a fight with Keith Thurman. It's crazy. Like, we need to stop this. You've got a bigger fight, you know, in women's sport, getting them transgendered out of the sport. We need to stop this nonsense. The truth, according to Beats, I believe the Dillian Whyte fight was a safe fight for Anthony Joshua. So if you're going to tell me, are they playing it extra cautious with Robert Helenius? Well, what do you think I'm going to answer? Of course they are. AJ's not the champion no more. The fight's not on pay-per-view. When you talk about probably the top prospect in the heavyweight division, that has to be Jared Anderson. Well, he had one tough fight with a guy AJ blew out in 2, and now they're talking about demoting him to opponents like Rudenko, like Matmadov. They talk about him, some people. His best win was a tough points decision against Carlos Takam, and the likes of Takam are taking these fights on late notice. You know, who was Hrgovic fought as a pro? They're talking about Zhang. Zhang barely drew with Jerry Forrest. Joe Joyce, he has a decent resume, but we saw what happened to him last time out. Tyson Fury, a lot of people talk about how skilled he is and this and that. It doesn't impress me as much as it impresses other people. Like, the division is wide open. Deontay Wilder, he's got a thin resume. Of course AJ is supposed to beat Robert Helenius. Helenius has always had suspect stamina, suspect punch resistance, and the same could be leveled at AJ. But I don't think he's been training as hard as Anthony Joshua in recent times. He's 39 years of age. He is very tall. He looks taller than 6'6.5". He's been stopped 3 times, once by Deontay Wilder, once by Gerald Washington, and Johan Duhaupas stopped him. He's had one win since the stoppage defeat to Wilder, which was 8 or 9 months or so back. Probably more KO than stoppage, actually. He actually fought this year on the 5th. That's the only fight he's had since he lost to Wilder in October. He has good leverage, has a respectable knockout ratio. Is actually a talented fighter who lost his way in the pros. AJ has faster feet. Got to use your strengths. Use your faster feet. Get in and out, but you also have to be aggressive. He wants to put intelligent pressure on Helenius. He has the faster hands, and he needs to use that to get that double jab into Helenius' chest. Keep Helenius on the back foot. Hold the ring center. Don't let him come forward behind that 1-2 and start trying to get combinations off. Helenius, relatively upright European style. Try and time the jab with the overhand right over the top, and you should get this guy out of here, man. You know what I mean? Like, Look, there's only a few days' notice, but if him and Derek James can't come up with something in a few days to beat Helenius, then it's not that impressive, is it? So I expect AJ to win in the first 7. Let's say AJ gets him out of there in 7. A lot of people compare that to Deontay Wilder getting Helenius out in 1 round. I don't think that really tells much on how the fight will play out. For instance, I don't think the likes of Francesca Pianetto, who took Tyson Fury the distance, would go anywhere near the distance with Deontay Wilder, but it doesn't really tell us much if we're looking at styles make fights. Helenius isn't just going to fall over. This is a golden opportunity for him. So AJ has to put in work. You can't expect Helenius just to fall over. But at the same time, he's got to keep a balance. He has to be professional and not be reckless. But he has to assert himself on Helenius. I anticipate a fast start by Helenius unless he's been deterred by that knockout loss he suffered against Wilder. Because what's he going to do? You're going to wait around to try and go the distance and fiddle AJ about? No. He's got a relatively high knockout percentage. He needs to try and get AJ out of there early. So what he tried against Wilder may not have been successful, but I don't see he has any other option. He doesn't have a good gas tank, and he's not quicker than AJ. This is one fight I believe the longer it goes, it suits Anthony Joshua. They should be breaking this guy down. And AJ has to anticipate that fast start. That might be Helenius' only chance. And if he leaves himself open, AJ has to be there and be ruthless and take him out like Wilder did. Just like Wilder did. Take him out. And then we look onwards to bigger and better. The big Saudi Arabia showdown. AJ and Wilder. Barring no upset Saturday. And I'm not expecting an upset. Simon led with the strict liability argument. Did Conor Benn prove his innocence, that he didn't take anything? He had Eddie pinned behind a jab. He did. Because if you're all about strict liability, just shoot straight and say, yeah, Conor's proven himself innocent. I don't know if Conor's guilty. Simon doesn't know if Conor is guilty. Why are you trying to prove him guilty when you have as much evidence to prove him innocent as you do guilty either way? You don't have the dossier. What does it matter if he proved himself innocent? He's worked out a deal that he can get back in the ring. He's been out over 1.5 years. When Tyson was out for so many years, did he prove himself innocent? No. He took culpability. Him and Huey, they took culpability and they got a backdated ban in exchange. It was a compromise between UKAD and Fury. And if that's the type of deal that Conor has worked out, I don't know, because the details haven't come out. It is what it is. And it got boring because we were discussing the Conor Benn case in the first meeting between Eddie and Simon. It got boring. It got boring. There's no one in the history of boxing who's got popped. And let's say VADA, UKAD, or any of the testing agencies came out and said, no, they're not dirty, actually. No one 100% believes that. It's always no smoke without fire, isn't it? Closing the stable door after the horse has bolted, so to speak. You get the feeling that even Eddie Hearn's hardest detractors weren't interested in talking about the Conor Benn case when Dillian just popped, and we're wondering who's going to be the replacement opponent. What's the consequences for Dillian? What were the details of this one? Then he got it wrong about when Eddie received the information about Dillian's test, and Robert Smith, the secretary of the board, actually confirmed it online while they were debating, and he looked stupid there. And then later, he probably didn't even realize when Eddie was trying to give AJ the ceremony and he kept interrupting, breaking down all the opponents AJ faced, and he mentioned Povetkin. Simon went, Povetkin? He said, yeah, Povetkin. And Simon said, he got knocked out by Dillian. Not before AJ fought him, though. And not before Povetkin himself knocked out Dillian. He was a mandatory for AJ, and only had lost once on points to Vladimir Klitschko, in a fight that should have been changed to a no decision with all the holding that Klitschko did. He got that totally wrong, and it's not good entertainment. And unless you're in that 38% who thinks that Simon won or is good entertainment, because they held a poll and 62% said that Eddie won. But what did he win really? That wasn't a debate. It looked like he'd been focused too much on his prostate issues to really be worrying about debating Eddie, because he didn't seem to know anything. Frank Warren claims he was invited onto TalkSport, but Eddie has blocked it. Did he mean he was invited on while Eddie was being interviewed? Eddie should have let Frank on and told Simon to ask Frank, did Tyson Fury prove himself innocent, since you want to quiz Eddie about Conor's innocence? Frank wanted to challenge what Eddie said with his interview earlier on TalkSport, that Usyk is easier to work with. and Fury doesn't want the fight.
We've got purse bids tomorrow for OPETAIA and Richard Riakporhe. What do you think is going to happen with that?
God, well, Boxer better get that then, shouldn't I?
Well, I replied on your poll, like, if Jai is going to get 75% of the split and he's with Matchroom, how much is Ben going to put up?
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to beat Matchroom for that bid. I'll be shocked.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Sky would have to have a lot of belief in Richard Riakporhe to put enough bid. Yeah, a load. A whole load.
Bunk out bid, yeah. Because otherwise it's going to Matchroom. They don't want it to go there.
Now, that's what I said on the hangout the day before the purse bid. On one of the weeklies, I said a couple of times, will Ben actually go through with the bid? Well, today was the purse bid. This is what Sporting Icons reported earlier.
Okay, so Richard Riakporhe has pulled out of the purse bid that was due today against the IBF Cruiserweight World Champion, OPETAIA. Not for the first time, a Boxer Sky sports fighter has pulled out of a purse bid on the day the purse bid is due. So,
before we carry on, Sky have lost their way totally, not just because Eddie left, but without Adam Smith and this inexperienced kid in there, and whoever's left there at Sky, it's an absolute shit show. Now, Ben Shalom was targeting OPETAIA to defend his strap against Richard Riakporhe. Eddie Hearn threw a spanner in the plans when he signed Jai OPETAIA and the rest of his stable over there in Oz. Now, Richard Riakporhe, 33, no spring chicken. He's speaking about how he previously accepted 2 fight offers to contest the belt. He missed out on other opportunities, which has left him inactive. It's clear other parties were simply trying to disrupt his journey, which I won't let happen, Riakporhe said. He said he's chosen to go a different route and will be sharing news of another world title opportunity very soon. Now, he hasn't fought since January. There's no reason for him not to have fought since January. He doesn't have a belt. He's not a world champion. Why hasn't he fought since January? Now, from what I heard, Lawrence Okoli is activating his rematch clause against Dillian Smith. So, who's going to get that Dillian Smith fight? Riakporhe or Okoli? If Okoli is denied or coerced not to take the rematch because he's not a popular choice, not with the fans and not with the boardroom at Sky. They don't want him to have that fight. They prefer Riakporhe, who's actually beat Dillian Smith. Surely Okoli's not going to take that sitting down. Surely. I don't know what's happening with Arsene Goulamarian. Are they going to tie that fight up for Richard Riakporhe? Or will they take the B side to Badou Jack? Because, you know, over there up in the Middle East, you're not going to A-side them guys. You're not going to A-side Badou Jack. So maybe they think that's the easier option is Badou Jack. Although he's only ranked number 6 by the WBC, Riakporhe, in all truth. He's ranked number 1 for Chris Dillian Smith's strap. Okoli ranked number 5 by the WBO. I don't know, maybe they might come out of pocket and try and get Badou Jack to come over to the UK. I don't know what Richard was talking about. He's going to go another route. You're 33 years of age. To be honest, I picked OPETAIA to beat him in Australia. They just didn't want to take the chance. Yeah, you know, Badou's 39. You could argue his best years were at super middle and light heavy. He's a 3-weight champion. So they probably fancy their chances against Badou. Richard is a lot naturally bigger. And perhaps they fancy the Goulamarian fight more than the OPETAIA fight. Also, with the likes of Goulamarian, they might have to deal with Eddie Hearn. Basically, they don't want Richard Riakporhe to fight on DAZN. They don't want him to fight on DAZN. Pretty much how they didn't want Fraser Clark to fight on DAZN. And once again, what's all this pulling out of purse bids on the day of the purse bid? That's twice in a row. Just submitting to Matchroom. It looks weird. It just looks weird. Matchroom are involved in a lot of purse bids. That's 1 down, 2 to go. Tomorrow is David Adeleye, the challenger, the mandatory challenger, and the champion, the British champion, Fabio Wardley. How's that going to go? Is Frank Warren going to pay up that 60% to Fabio, the champion, to get David Adeleye a shot at a British title? Or is he going to do a Ben Shalom? Is what I'm wondering now. This is really interesting in terms of domestic boxing over here. Did Simon Jordan cover any of that, him or Jim Whyte? No. You wanted to talk about 1 year and some change old news. Boring. Streets are watching, Frank. Streets are watching. I don't remember Frank doing that. I'm going to be interested to hear this Richard Riakporhe announcement, and like, hopefully it's soon. Hopefully it's soon. Hopefully it's not hot air. Hopefully Ben Shalom ain't selling him a dummy, denying his fighter's title opportunity. I can think of 4 off the top right now. Let's not forget, it was David Adeleye who went out of his way to the Anthony Joshua Jermaine Franklin weigh-in to confront the British champion Fabio Wardley. So let's not pretend that you didn't ask for this fight. You're asking for the fight, and here's the purse bid. Let's see what Frank does. Because it's hard to see how Frank wins this bid. You see, when Dillian was fighting Tyson Fury, Dillian got, what was it, 20, whatever the percentage was, right? So Eddie put in a good bid for Dillian, but he was never going to bid too much because, what, you're going to pay Tyson Fury all that money and not have no options on him? Unlikely. So it's reported that Tyson Fury got £22 million. Dillian got 5.5 million. But it's suspected that it was a ghost bid by Frank Warren. So Frank can say, yeah, I'm putting up 27 million, which almost guarantees him the purse because, I mean, how much is Eddie going to be? He's not going to bid much more and give Fury all that dough without no options on him. But a lot of people suspect that the 22 million could be closer to 15 million. It was just the way to ensure that Queensbury keep it all BT, all Queensbury. But you can afford to do that when your guy's getting 80% of the split. Now, it's not illegal what Frank's doing. It's a perfectly legit practice. Eddie himself said he's done similar things, or his dad has. With Fabio getting 60, Frank could make an ambitious bid if he really believes in David Adeleye. But how much does he believe in David? Now, Matchroom are betting on themselves. 2 bids, 1 to go. They've won the O'Shaki Foster Eduardo Hernandez bid, which is for O'Shaki's WBC World Super Featherweight title. O'Shaki will be getting 75% of the 90% remaining in the pot. 75%. And he's a Showtime fighter. I don't know if he's PBC, but he's Showtime. Tom Brown. He's Showtime. So that's backing. They are backing Hernandez to win that fight big time. They are backing Hernandez. People want to talk about betting on yourself? Well, here you go. They want that belt. They want that belt. They're paying the opposing champion over the odds. No complaints. They want the fight. And they're going to bring it to Mexico. This kid is 35 fights, 31 inside the distance, 34 wins, only 1 loss. They're backing their man. 25 years of age. O'Shaki, he has 20 wins, 11 inside the distance, and 2 losses. Shows how much faith Showtime and Tom Brown, or the PBC if he's part of that sect, have in him. Not much. Although he gets a great purse. The winning bid was $466,666.